So what are the strategies that companies are taking for data democratization?
Yeah, so I think actually data democratization is really interesting because you can take two approaches, this more liberal or this more conservative approach, and there's pros and cons to each, and there isn't necessarily a right answer. A lot of organizations find themselves taking the liberal approach. They make this decision to be data-driven, and they want to get data into the hands of everybody in their organization. While you no longer have bottlenecks with your data, what can happen is that when you have people interacting with data who may not be really familiar with it, a couple of things can happen. So oftentimes, people just aren't trained in analytics, both how to sort of write queries and also how to interpret data. And so you run the risk that people are making decisions off data that they really don't understand. And the second part of that is data collection can actually be really sensitive. And if people are creating data and creating that incorrectly or creating incorrect sort of tags or definitions for what these events are, that can mean that the data and the analysis that they're doing is actually wrong. And so you really don't want to run the risk of making a business decision on data that's just flawed. And this can oftentimes be really difficult to fix down the road. Once trust is broken in data, it can be hard to build that back up again in your organization.
That totally makes sense.
So with that in mind, other organizations have taken a more conservative approach. And this is really aligning with that traditional method that I talked about, where you have, either one person or a team of people who kind of really limit the access to that data. So you can allow people to consume data via things like dashboards or reports that this team sort of sends and shares out with others in the organization. But it still means that somebody in your organization needs to take on that ownership. And so it's adding additional responsibilities to their plate. And quite honestly speaking, some organizations, especially those smaller ones, don't have resources to dedicate somebody to managing their data.
Right.
So again, you have this problem of potential bottlenecks and having to prioritize particular people's questions and getting them to answers to that.